Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Miriam Friedman. I'm the principal of DiPietro, and I'm going to introduce who I am with today. Just a heads up, I know that Mrs. Rafferty had said this, but this is a webinar, so you can see us as panelists, but there isn't the opportunity to speak back and forth. However, please feel free to put in questions in the chat that's down below in the chat session as you're thinking about them, and Mrs. Tucker, Mrs. Thomas, and I will do our best to answer them. So tonight is our parent information session for our Title I evening, and we're also going to be talking a little bit about assessments and what that will look like at DiPietro. So quick introduction before I start. We're joined by our wonderful Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment, Mrs. Rafferty, and Charlotte Tucker. She's our math specialist, our Title I math lead teacher as well. And then Mrs. Thomas, our Title I ELA lead teacher. So today we're going to be covering three different topics. The Title I annual notifications. This is one of our responsibilities because we do receive grant funds. And so we'll be talking about that and what it entails. Another Title I topic, using assessment data to target and support our students in reading and math. So in order to identify the students that we work with, we have to use the data that we're collecting. And then finally, this was in our newsletter, and I know that you've gotten an email, the iReady beginning of year diagnostic for 2020, because this year we're having it done remotely so we can continue working with students for the 2 days that they're in person with us. And how you'll be able to help us with that and how we'll be able to help you along the way. We have built in some supports. Oops. Okay. For those of you that are here, I know that it's a busy time, and then we had a really rainy day, so people are probably outside enjoying the weather. We are recording this session, and it'll be posted on our website if people want to check in with it later.
So again, I'm Carolyn Rafferty, the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment. I also serve as the Title I Director for the district. On this slide, you'll see the other members of our Title I team. We have Cindy Haley-Higgins, who is our Title I Coordinator, our Literacy Lead Teacher, Noreen Thomas, who's joining us tonight. We have 2 literacy tutors that work at DiPietro currently, and one more that we'll be looking to hire over the course of the school year. Our math lead teacher, Charlotte Tucker, is also here tonight, and we have 2 math teachers that work at DiPietro as well. So tonight we'll be going over a brief description about Title I, talking a little bit about our program, and then we'll be doing our annual notification process that we're required to do each year. So Title I is a federally funded program designed to strengthen our programs in school districts by providing support services to students in order to achieve state standards. Title I also provides federal dollars for supplemental education opportunities for children who are most at risk of failing to meet the state's challenging content and performance standards. Title I gives districts the opportunity to create 2 types of school-based programs. So this slide provides you with a description of a targeted assistance program and also a school-wide program. We wanted to share with you the DiPietro School, actually both of our elementary schools, Stallbrook and DiPietro, operate a school-wide program. And by operating a school-wide program, this permits us to use Title I funds in combination with state and local resources and most other federal education program funds to upgrade the entire education program of the school to raise academic achievement of all students. Each year we have some requirements for family engagement and communication, and so we've created these next 2 slides to share with you those requirements. First and foremost, all districts all Title I schools are required to have a family engagement policy, and those policies are linked here. We'll also be sending those out to you following this presentation. We also are required to have a compact for all Title I families. And again, that compact will be sent out to you following this presentation. In addition to that, we're required to hold a Title I information session, which we are doing tonight. On the next slide, you can see we are also required to distribute our annual district and school report cards. Those come out in December and they'll be emailed out to you and posted on our websites. We're also required to notify parents and guardians if their child will be taught for 4 or more weeks by a teacher not meeting licensure requirements. And that is something that the building principal would communicate with you if and when that were to happen over the course of the school year. Lastly, we're also required to notify parents and guardians of their right to request teacher qualifications. And that's done annually when we release that DESE school report card in December. I'm going to move to the next slide, and I'm going to turn that over back to one of our Title I lead teachers.
I think that's me, though.
All right.
Okay. Go ahead. Mrs. Tucker, did you want to go?
Sure. So Title I is part of a school-wide plan of support for students. So with our Title I, what we do with some of our data, so teachers determine each student's current performance through the use of assessments. It could be an assessment that's done iReady, like we're going to talk to tonight. It could be something that's assessed in math or something that's assessed in reading. Teachers use the assessment results to set goals to help students to meet and exceed grade level benchmarks. Teachers design plans to achieve the goals, and then we measure project progress and adjust instruction. So that's the process we go to identify students who may need additional assistance at school, and then we set some goals for them, and then we progress monitor to make sure they're making the progress they need to. Okay, slide.
Hi, so we're going to talk a little more specifically about the types of intervention that occur in our Title I program. Title I, it's part of a tiered intervention, and what that means is there's levels of support for all children. So, you know, Tier 1 would be the general educational program that all children receive. If children are demonstrating they need more support, then they would move up to what's called Tier 2, and we provide additional supports for them. Typically in Title I, that is designed as a small group additional instructional period, usually about 3 times a week. And it is timed for, there's intervals. So typically on average, it's about 8 weeks. It sometimes is 6, sometimes would stretch to 10 depending on the needs and the calendar. But it's always timed with a deadline so that we can keep determining if that assessment is appropriate for the child and the child is demonstrating progress. I'm sorry, not the assessment, the instruction, to make sure that that instruction is well matched and meeting the needs of that child or that group of children. And therefore, after that 8-week interval, we check the child's progress and how things are going, and we adjust as needed. And each time we have the end of an interval, we provide a progress report to the parents so that parents can also be very, very closely in the loop of how that additional instruction is going for the child. Next slide. Okay. All right. So now I'll talk, I'm the reading teacher, so I'll talk a bit about the specific interventions we use in reading. We have 2 categories of intervention resources. One is when we use something that is used school-wide, but for intervention we might use it slightly differently, more intensely. We might use certain aspects of the program to emphasize or to practice or review with the child. So Foundations is a program we use school-wide, kindergarten through 3rd grade, and it's used for phonics, decoding, and spelling for all children. But if children are demonstrating that they need more support in those areas, they would qualify for Title I, and we might use foundations, and we might adapt it to provide them additional practice or increase of focus of certain parts of the program to provide intervention for the children that are having difficulty meeting the grade level benchmarks in just the general educational program. So that's one category. Sometimes we decide that the child has a specific area that really needs to shore up. So we might use another type of program or tool. At DiPietro, that might be something more, something like a targeted comprehension program, or something called leveled literacy. So we have certain tools that we use when we need to target certain needs, but foundations is something that we can always provide additional support for children if needed. Okay, slide. RAS Kids is something we've been really relying on in remote learning. RAS Kids is something else that we use across the school for all children, but we can tailor it to provide additional support or target certain skills that children need if they're having difficulty reaching benchmarks in the general educational program. And RAS Kids is just a leveled bookshelf, electronic bookshelf, that allows us to really tailor the types of books and the level of difficulty of books for children right at their learning level. And that's something we've been really relying on. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with RAS Kids. Generally, when it's not a pandemic, we have a range of texts that are both applicable to all children, and then ones that are specific to whatever level they're at, and help them move forward as they progress in their skill level. Okay, slide. Okay, on to math.
Hi, so again, I'm Charlotte Tucker, the math specialist here. So in math, we use a math curriculum called Bridges, and Bridges has two components, or three really, if you see on the screen. So Bridges Math, there's a whole class component that the teacher would teach you a lesson from, and then they might do some small group work as well. You might have seen that being used through the remote learning at home and both in the classroom. Number Corner is sort of the second component to the whole class piece, where they do their calendar, they look at patterns. A lot of the kids really like that. If your student was at DiPietro last year in K1, they might have seen Mrs. Morgan from Stallbrook doing some Number Corner. If they were in 2-3, they might have seen myself doing some Number Corner. So those are what makes up our two math components. And then we also have Bridges Intervention, which is connected, but it's also a way for us to fill the gaps and to help kids that might need a little bit of extra push in that area of mathematics. And so those three pieces work really nicely together to help kind of bring together that math piece. When you get the presentation, there are some links at the top that you can go ahead and look at. We're not going to go into that specifics tonight, but that's for you to peruse, and then we'll also provide that in the follow-up email as well. All right, slide. The last piece here that we're also going to be connecting in this year for math is a program called Dreambox Learning. So if you had a child last year that was at DiPietro, they used Math iReady for their math learning. This year we're using this new program. It's more aligned to the Bridges curriculum that we've been using, and it's the kids love it, the ones who've already started using it. It's a little bit more game-based. The kids get to do certain lessons, and then as they do the lessons, they collect kind of coins or money or badges, and then there's also additional math games they can play within the particular program. And so some children have already started using it, some children have not yet. Those logins will be coming from your teachers, and I'm also going to be doing some introduction on that remotely with kiddos as well. So it adapts the individual learner, which is really cool, because as a kid plays, it decides what else they need to know, and it adapts as it goes. So if a child is struggling, it'll help support the child more, and if a child is doing well, it will continue to move them along the pathway. So we're really excited to have that this year, and hopefully we'll have it for years to come. So we'll see. All right, slide.
Okay, so now we're gonna, we gave an overview of the programs we have in reading and math, and now we're gonna get into testing at home. This is a brand new exploration for everyone in this new partnership that we have this fall. We're going to be working with families and parents on how to administer a test to our students so that sometimes when they're learning at home, they're also taking a test during that time.
So the one thing that we really like to stress is the purpose of testing is to determine your child's independent performance level. And as you can see, I've underlined the word independent, and that's because it's natural instinct for us to want to help our child. It's also very natural for our children to say to us that they don't get what they're supposed to do. They don't know this. We are going to be sending home some supports, and we can also send you a link of how you can the ways that you would support your child. There are specific things that we ask you not to do, because at the end of the day, it doesn't help your child and it doesn't help us. Because if you do help them or you do guide them to get them to the answer, what it doesn't do for us is let us know their independent level. So if their independent level comes out higher than what it actually is, then we're not going to be teaching them, we're not starting where they need to have us start for their learning when we're teaching them. So this is the key part. If you have any questions or this doesn't make sense to you, feel free to reach out to either Mrs. Thomas, Mrs. Tucker, or myself, and we can definitely help you with that process.
Okay, so some tips for being successful if you're going to do some assessment at home. So before the test, if you could make sure you have a quiet space that the child can test at. If your child goes to a daycare or somewhere else other than the home, if you could communicate that to their child care provider, especially if you know from that schedule that it's going to be the day of their test, maybe they can put them in an extra quiet space and move other children out of the space. Also set expectations for the amount of support so your child understands you cannot help with the answers. So if we were giving this at school, we would say, okay, you're going to try do the best you can do. I can't help you with the answers. I need to know what you have in your head or what you can think and what you can do. So if you set that expectation before the test, that can help kids as they go through. During the test, some general encouragement, but not giving them help with specific questions. So if it's a reading test, we don't want to necessarily read them the passage because that's part of what they're asked to do. If it's a math test, you might want to encourage them to have some pencil and paper next to them so they can do out the calculations. Frustration does happen, and if that does, you can have them take a break, which is what we would do in the classroom as well, or maybe skip the problem and come back to it would be another strategy we might try. And then also position yourself close but not too close. So you don't necessarily want to be sitting right next to them because then they kind of naturally would look to you for help, but maybe in the same room just doing something else in the corner. So some place where they can get you if they need you, but not necessarily right up and close and next to them. Okay, slide. All right, so now we're going to go into a little bit of our iReady beginning of the year diagnostic. And this gets into a specific test that we give for students grades 1 through 3. And Mrs. Thomas is going to go into more detail on that next slide.
So we use a variety of assessments. We have, a range from teachers observing and using a checklist to see if kids know skills up to, this very structured computer-based test, which is the iReady. But so we have a range of assessments, but the first assessment we're really going to focus on this fall is this computer based iReady. It is important to note that we do not use iReady in kindergarten. So the specific logistics about giving the iReady is not applicable to kindergarten, but we did feel that, we look at it as just one assessment of the many we use at the school. And so we have an outlook of how would a family go about giving any assessment. So we hope that these suggestions and things to think about relate to any kind of assessment that you would do at home. But we will be giving some specifics that relate to the iReady in the next minute or two here. The iReady test is used, as I said, from grades 1 through 3, and then it also is administered at the Memorial School. So the information goes into 4th through 7th grade. It's given 3 times a year, beginning of year, a middle around late January, and then in the end. So we can see a child's growth over time. And due to our circumstances, we are going to be doing this on children's days at home learning. So if they're full remote students, obviously it will be at home. And if they're hybrid students, it will be during one of their at home learning days. That's me again. Okay, so this is a little flyer that's given out by iReady, which has some useful information. And it will be, I believe the links on the side, the blue links there will be workable links when you receive this presentation. Also, I believe we'll be disseminating the information in Mrs. Friedman's newsletter. So you will be able to access this if you're interested in reading more. They provide some nice little, very short videos. If you are interested in learning more, if you want to watch it with your child to prepare them, it's 2 minutes to 5 minutes, I believe. But we're covering a lot of the same information here tonight. And then as Mrs. Tucker mentioned, you know, it's a little bit of preparation just to get the child sort of set up for success. And so the quiet space is important as much as possible that we can provide that. And then you will be getting a time from the teachers. I believe it'll be part of the child's schedule for the day that it will say, you know, today is your child's iReady test, and here's the window of time that you will take it. So that will be coming from the teachers, so keep an eye out for that. They will also provide you with the username and password. And then they will be available during they will have a Google Meet open if you run into any issues. So they will send that information as well, and they will be available to you if you're having difficulty logging in or if anything else arises during the time. The iReady does recommend headphones if possible. I believe you can do it if you don't have headphones, but it's better, especially if they're in an environment around other people. And as Mrs. Tucker mentioned, scrap paper and pencil is useful for the math part of the test. And then they, you know, again, as Mrs. Tucker said, they just suggest that you be as encouraging as possible without giving any specific help to the child.
So these next couple of slides are from iReady as well, and they'll be, again, coming home to you. But how does the diagnostic work? So iReady is adaptive, which means the questions change based on how your student answers the questions that come before it. So what happens is iReady tries to figure out where is that student's kind of right point of learning, and where do we need to start instruction with them. So there might be some questions that they feel are really easy. There might be, yep, keep going, thank you. One more, perfect. Some that might be hard, some that might be just right. And so just encourage them as much as they can to do their best. If they're not sure and they're really not sure, tell them to take their best guess. And then the iReady program figures it out and comes up with their score, and then it also will then suggest us at the back end, you know, this is where you can start with the child, or this is where their needs are, and this is what they can do. And again, this is 1 point of data for us, so this isn't the be all end all. We take this information and then we work with the teachers, we look at other assessments that they do, and then we look at the whole picture and the whole child and decide you know, what kind of supports that we need to give them. So once you log in, you're gonna see this screen, and then can you click again? Yep, and so if you're doing reading, there's a reading button and then a math. Go ahead and click again. And then if you click one more time, there we go, we go to the next page. So once you've clicked either reading or math, you're gonna see this page with this green button. And so you're gonna, one more time, click. You're gonna click the green button to start the diagnostic. And then go ahead and click again. So once you start or resume your diagnostic, you're going to see this question pop up on your screen. Now, this is new to us this year because they're collecting information for if you're doing it at school or if you're doing it at home. So click again, please. So if you're doing it at school, they are going to click yes, they're doing it at school. Most of our kids are going to click no, they're taking the diagnostic at home. Okay, click again. And then you click the green arrow to move on. All right. And then this last one here, just watch for rushing. So one pitfall or one thing that we might see is that a child may just try and click, 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 click through. We do want to have them take the time to listen to the question, to really think through the question. So if the child, seems to be finishing questions fairly quickly and you're monitoring them, just kind of look. If they seem to just be clicking and clicking and clicking, you might want to say, hey, let's slow down a minute and really make sure we're understanding that question. We also can see on our end that we get like a flagged hand if the child seems to go too fast. And we look at that as well to see, is this accurate information or is it not? And if it's not accurate, then we usually have a conversation with the teacher.
Oh, sorry, a little tech issue. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, this is brand new experience among many for us this fall. And so as we wrap up, we want to think about some of the hidden opportunities of doing some of this as a partnership. So definitely this is going to be another opportunity for us to communicate with you, the families, on how your child is doing. You're going to be probably, if you're setting your child up, you're going to get a little glance at what the expectations are for their grade level as they enter this fall. And the other thing is that it, as Mrs. Friedman mentioned, it allows us to really capitalize on the in-person time that they are, the 2 days a week that they are coming to schools, as opposed to us having to spend a good chunk of a few weeks doing the iReady in school. If it offers the teachers more time to do some new direct instruction. So just a couple of positive opportunities for us through this experience.
Noreen, do you want to take this one? Or you want me to?
Sorry, I'm having a little bit of a tech issue. I can do it.
Okay.
Just the slide. Can you take it, Charlotte? I'm sorry.
Yep, no problem. So next steps, kind of what happens, now. So next steps, the compacts and the family engagement policy will be sent out to all families. We'll also include the materials we talked about tonight in terms of like the family handouts, the checklists, the videos that you can watch if you choose to. The diagnostic testing dates and logins will be shared with your child's teacher. So there's one test for reading and there's one test for math. And we'd like to break it up into 2 sessions for each test if the child needs it. So the first session will probably be scheduled for about 30 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes, about 30 minutes of testing time. If they don't finish, we'd like them to stop and then do a second session of the assessment. We don't expect them to go straight through without a break. And so those dates will be assigned by the teachers. And then results will be sent home if your child is hybrid or mailed home if you are remote learning. That will come after the diagnostic has officially closed and we are able to print the results and send them home. And then once iReady and other beginning of the year reading and math assessments are completed, the Title I groups will start to form and support the students, and the parents will be notified of extra support. So after we do the iReady and we've gathered other classroom information and talked with teachers, we've identified students that might need some extra support through our programs. We will send notices home to parents to let you know that your student is receiving that extra help. And if you do not want them to receive that for any reason, you can always contact us at the school. Okay. Miriam, I think you're muted.
I've had trouble with that all day today. I apologize. So this brings us to the conclusion of our meeting, and we can stay on for a little bit. If anyone has any questions, go ahead and put them into the chat, please. Here's our contact information. It's also available on our website in case it's not something that you can remember, but anyone that you'd be able to hear from. And so we'll just take a moment and we'll answer any of the questions. So I'm going to let I will read the question and then I'll let Mrs. Tucker, oops, go ahead and respond. If the child doesn't finish in the allotted time, are they able to finish later?
Yes, so the two sessions should be enough for the majority of children. There are some children that take more time, and if that's the case, they haven't finished after 2 sessions, the teacher will normally schedule another session, and they'll probably work with Mrs. Thomas or I so that we can help with that. Or if it's at home, they'll probably just say schedule another session, and they'll work with you in the schedule.
When will they first be tested? Go ahead, Mrs. Thomas.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I believe that in the next few days, you will be getting information from your teachers. So they are right now planning out in the next week or two where they're going to schedule the tests. So that will be all communicated to you with the children's login and anything you need to know.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up now. I apologize. Maggie's going a little crazy upstairs, and she's just not using her quiet inside voice. So thank you very much for joining us. And again, if any more questions come up, please just go ahead and email any of us and we will help you out. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.